Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we know Star Wars has had a problem ever since the Disney Corporation bought them, boys and girls. They spend money like a drunken sailor, like it's going out of business, and they've got nowhere to run because, boys and girls, it is absolutely insane. And you know, for all the things you can say about the UK's government system over there and all the kind of crazy things that they do, well, at the end of the day, I am very much appreciated for one aspect of the United Kingdom's governmental system out there. And one of those, of course, is their tax rebates for movies, because in order to get those tax rebates for movies or television shows or just generally filming in the United Kingdom for anything out there, well, if you get those fat little rebates that they give you, all of your tax returns have to be public knowledge. And ladies and gentlemen, when you find out what Disney, Star Wars, and Kathleen Kennedy spent on what was one of the lowest watched television series in Star Wars history out there, this is absolutely insane. And boys and girls, this explains exactly why Disney finds itself in the current financial situation they are in. Because, boys and girls, whether you want to believe it or not, the Walt Disney Company is broke. Don't believe me? Ask old dear sweet Bob Iger over there as to why they're not producing so much Marvel and Star Wars content over the next few years. That's because they have officially run out of other people's monies, and with spending like drunken sailors like they did on Andor and the amount of money they spent out there, well, I think you all can understand why. And also, to all the naysayers and all the Disney Star Wars shill pixie dusters out there, I'm going to say it right now, so get your comments ready. Andor is an undeniable flop. It has lost the Walt Disney Company money, and there is no way in Hades that you can deny that, especially now. Because as you can see from our dear sweet friends over at thatparkplace.com, and of course shout out to Forbes, who was the first one to find all of this information, but you know what, we'd rather give the clicks to thatparkplace.com than Forbes because, well, we like these guys better. But as you can see here from the headline, Disney Lucasfilm spent over $500 million on Andor budget. Where is this money going? Well, I think there's probably plenty of arguments that can be made that we know there's some fancy little funky Hollywood accounting out there that generally accounts for most of this. There's all of these, diversity and inclusion and equity supervisors and advisory committees you've got to ask in, and you've got to get all these contractors to come in and check and make sure all your stuff fits within all your parameters. And of course, GLAAD's got to come in and double check everything over there at Disney Star Wars. So, I wonder where all of this money went. Well, needless to say, boys and girls, we're going to check out all the juicy details of this article from thatparkplace.com. And of course, once again, reiterate the fact that you cannot deny that Andor was an absolute flop for Disney Plus. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. And also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Does it surprise you that Disney spent over $500 million on 2 seasons of a television show? A television show, boys and girls. That is absolutely insane. And please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We are inching our way closer and closer to 1,500 subscribers, and I could not do that without every single one of you. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Montanero, Disney's reported budget for the first 2 seasons of Andor ballooned to over $500 million amid diminishing returns. Yeah, the ORI on this is a big fat 0 because there is it's based on the ratings and the Nielsen numbers and the Samba TV numbers and everything else. There is no way this television show made Disney any money. It didn't bring in them any new subscribers. There wasn't even ad revenue at the time. This thing was an undeniable flop at $500 million spent. In an era where streaming platforms are vying for viewer attention with ever-expanding libraries, Disney Star Wars' series Andor stands out, not just for its storytelling, but for its astronomical budget, with costs soaring to a staggering $645 million. Andor exemplifies what many critics are calling a ridiculous bloat for a streaming shows whose viewership metrics just don't justify such expenditures, and not even close. Disney has disclosed that Andor's second season alone cost a record $290.9 million, making that the highest ever annual spending on a Star Wars production. Boys and girls, they spent more money on this than any other shows, whether it be Mando bringing Luke back, whether it be Ahsoka and all the lightsaber battles they had, or whether it be Acolyte and all of the lightsaber nonsense garbage they had in that one. They spent more on Andor, the least least Star Wars of all the Star Wars out shows, then more than they spent on The Last Jedi. To put this into perspective, the figure eclipses the $280.7 million spent on Star Wars The Last Jedi over an almost 11-month period, and significantly surpasses the $243.8 million allocated to The Force Awakens during its production cycle. Andor is a flop. $500 million wasted, pissed down the drain. Good job, Kathleen Kennedy. I hope your vanity projects were worth it. The second season's budget is expected to climb even higher. Filming, which commenced on November 2022, faced interruptions due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, prolonging the shoot and inflating costs further. Principal photography wrapped up in February, but post-production, a year-long process laden with expensive visual effects, continues to drain resources. Andor boasts less than impressive viewership numbers, with its final finale amassing, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm all tongue-tied today. Welcome to Christmas, boys and girls. Merry Christmas, by the way. With its finale amassing 674 million minutes watched on Disney+. These figures pale in comparison when scrutinized against its budget. That is certainly not a new problem for Disney Lucasfilm. The Acolyte, another Star Wars spinoff, had a budget exceeding $230 million according to the UK filings. Despite its hefty investment, The Acolyte struggled with viewership, garnering only over 50% fewer minutes watched than Andor. This directly led to the cancellation of its second season, and Disney flat out admitted that. We'll probably end up doing another video over that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a busy day. Christmas holidays are absolutely nuts. But at the end of the day, Andor was the least watched Disney Star Wars show at the time up until Skeleton Crew came out. Like literally the least Star Wars. They even advertised it. It's the least Star Wars of all the Star Wars shows. And guess what? Fans didn't show up, and you still decided to spend over $500 million. How's that working out for you? Bold strategy, Cotton. The stark contrast raises critical questions about Disney's return on investment. The high cost of shows like Andor and The Acolyte are hard to justify, especially when both failed to captivate a sizable audience. The disparity suggests that Disney may be prioritizing high production values over sustainable viewership growth. Well, that's not going to work out very well now that they have to answer to all of their advertisers out there. Now is it? Because guess what? Advertisers get to see those numbers, and they're already trying to bail on Disney Plus because the viewership numbers that they were promised, hey, color us shocked there, Disney lied, and the numbers aren't as good as what they told these people, and now they're scrambling to try to move them over to linear markets out there, i.e. back to broadcast television, because broadcast television for the Walt Disney Company is getting better numbers than their streaming services with all their brand new $500 million television shows. Yeah, wonder why Disney's broke. Andor was set 5 years before the original Star Wars trilogy and is lauded for its grounded storytelling and extensive use of practical effects and physical sets. While these elements undoubtedly enhance the viewing experience, they also contribute to the bloated budget. The commitment to quality is almost commendable, if somewhat misguided. But when paired with viewership figures that don't proportionally match the investment, it becomes a precarious strategy that Disney will eventually have to justify to its investors and its advertisers. Moreover, the high costs associated with filming in the United Kingdom, where productions are subject to stringent financial disclosures and benefit from government reimbursements, add another layer to the financial strain. Disney's forced transparency in UK-based productions reveals the true extent of Andor's expenditures. That practice is not commonly seen in the US streaming shows, where budgets are typically concealed within broader financial statements. That's one of the things we've talked about all of the time in the past, all of the funny little Hollywood accounting out there, right, where Disney can argue that our streaming services are profitable. They always say Disney Plus, but the only reason you can argue that Disney Plus is profitable is because they roll it in with Hulu and they roll it in with ESPN. So yeah, it's all a numbers game, but fortunately enough, shout out to the UK and their tax filing system, because hey, investors plus all of us out there in the commentary section, all of us out there in the new media, boys and girls, we can roast them as well and call them out for their BS and push back against the narrative that Disney Star Wars is a success, because these numbers prove it is not. Kathleen Kennedy and Disney Star Wars has failed, and this is another $500 million nail into that coffin. The relentless spending on Andor comes at a time when Disney Plus is navigating a fiercely competitive streaming market. With numerous platforms vying for subscribers, loyalty, the sustainability of such higher budget productions is questionable. While Andor's first season received critical acclaim, boasting an 80% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, the highest among Star Wars shows, it remains to be seen if the second season can maintain its momentum without further ballooning its cost. Once again, one of the lowest watched Star Wars shows of all time. Doesn't matter if the audience liked it, the numbers don't add up. They don't add up to a success. Because guess what? If 10 people like it and they're all fanatics, they go rate it and they go, yeah, it's a number one, it gets 100%. But guess what? That's only 10 people. It doesn't account to any kind of actual financial return in any way, shape, or form. In contrast, The Acolyte serves as a cautionary tale. Despite a sustainable budget, despite a substantial budget, it is an inability to attract a robust audience led to its premature cancellation. If Andor continues on similar financial trajectory without a corresponding increase in viewership, Disney risks facing the same fate. And it's going to. $500 million on the least Star Wars of all time, Star Wars? Yeah, how's that going to work for you? And considering Bob Iger and everybody else over there, the Disney C-suite seems like it's a cancel everything that ain't working, boys and girls, because get this stuff out, get it put out there, and be done with it, because we're done wasting money with this. It's not going to bring any back, and I would imagine Andor Season 3 is not going to happen. And why should it? Disney has no idea what it comes to do what they're doing with Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy has said for beyond a shadow of a doubt that she wanted to try to turn it into a girls' brand. Well, how'd that work out for you? In the past, when Star Wars was at its height, even in the early years where we were still excited, we were foolishly excited about Disney taking over Star Wars, thinking that we were going to get great Marvel-like level movies of Star Wars, it was going to be incredible, and it was going to be awesome, and all of these wonderful things. And then, of course, we saw what happens with the movies, we saw what happened with The Rise of Palpatine, and of course, we've seen what's happened with everything going forward with Disney Star Wars on the series. I mean, do we need to bring up Obi-Wan Kenobi? Anybody, boys and girls? So yes, boys and girls, Andor Season 3 is probably not going to happen unless by some miracle it happens. In the second season, just the most gangbusters things have all happened, but that's not going to happen. Why? Because historically we've seen the pattern continue over and over again when it comes to Disney Star Wars. The shows continue to fail and their numbers continue to go down over and over and over again. And it's not going to be any different from Andor. And even if the numbers do get better, even if they're better than Ahsoka, even if they're better than The Acolyte, even if they're better than freaking Mando Season 1, it's not going to matter. You cannot spend over $500 million on 2 seasons of a television show and expect it to succeed. I mean, boys and girls, I don't know about you, but I remember being a Firefly fan. You remember all of that? Remember what happened to that? Oh yeah, that's right. It was too expensive for television because of all of the sci-fi stuff. Think about how much more expensive this stuff is now, and there is zero return on investment when it comes to Andor. And with a $500 million budget, boys and girls, that's not sustainable going forward, because like I've said before, like the saying goes around there 1,000,000 times, and we've heard it over and over again, eventually you run out of other people's money, and that's exactly where Disney finds itself in. Its parks are suffering, its box offices are suffering, and certainly its Disney Plus streaming service is suffering as well. And these numbers just prove exactly why Disney is broke. $500 million? Boy, I wonder why everything's getting canceled at Disney Star Wars. Andor's a flop.